This is Barry Zalma, Zalma on Insurance. As a reminder, starting September 1, every insurance claims handler in California must be trained on the California Fair Claims Settlement Practices Regulations, or must sign a sworn statement to the executives of the company for which the claims handler works, swearing under oath that they have read and understand the California Fair Claims Practices Regulations. One way to comply is to find at Amazon.com my paperback or Kindle book, The California Fair Claims Practices Regulations 2020. The reasons why the California Department of Insurance imposed the California Fair Claims Settlement Practices Regulations on all insurers doing business in California started in 1993. After waiting 5 years after receiving direction from the California Supreme Court, the state of California determined that the insurance industry needed to be regulated to stop insurers from treating the people insured badly and without good faith. It created a set of regulations called the California Fair Claims Settlement Practices Regulations. The regulations that were designed to enforce the mandate created by the California Fair Claims Settlement Practices Statute, California Insurance Code Section 790.03 (H), in response to the direction of the California Supreme Court in its decision called Moradi-Shalal versus Fireman's Fund Insurance Companies, which was decided in 1988. In so doing, the California Department of Insurance, the CDOI, issued rules that were designed to micromanage the business of insurance claims and create a method to punish those insurers who failed to comply with the regulations. Some of the regulations recited what had always been recognized by the insurance industry as good faith and proper claims handling. Others imposed draconian mandates on what and when to do everything in the claims process. The regulations also provided a guide to insurers, public insurance adjusters, and policyholders' lawyers to assert any violation of the regulations to be evidence of an insurer's breach of the implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing, because the regulations were stated to be the minimum basis upon which a claim should be handled. If the insurer failed to comply with the minimum standards, some policyholder lawyers, some defense lawyers, and some courts found that to be an indication that the insurer had breached the covenant of good faith and fair dealing. I wrote the book, The California Fair Claims Settlement Practices Regulations 2020, to assist insurance personnel who do business in the state of California. It provides advice to all insurance claims personnel, all claims professionals, all independent insurance adjusters, all special fraud investigators, private investigators who work for the insurance industry, all of the management in the industry, the attorneys who serve the industry, public insurance adjusters, policyholders, and counsel for policyholders working with insurers doing business in the state of California. and provide them with the information needed to properly, efficiently, and fairly resolve insurance claims and comply with the requirements of the regulations. All insurers doing business in California must comply with the requirements of the regulations or face the ire of and attempts at financial punishment from the CDOI. That punishment was found to be questionable and limited because of one courageous insurer who fought the CDOI and succeeded before an administrative law judge who limited the right to punish. That success, as far as I've been able to determine, has not been emulated since. Regardless of the difficulties in assessing punishment, the state of California requires all who are involved in the claims process, even if only tangentially, to be trained with regard to claims handling in compliance with the regulations and to attest to completion of such training under oath. To avoid the required annual training, the claims person can submit a sworn document to the insurer or insurers for whom the claims person works that avers that he or she has read and understood the regulations. Reviewing my book, the regulations and commentaries set forth in the book should be sufficient to allow a claims person to comply with the training requirements or the requirements to produce a sworn statement that you have read and understood the regulations. It is necessary that insurance personnel who are engaged in any way in the presentation, processing, or negotiation of insurance claims in California be familiar with the regulations. Counsel for insurers and policyholders should also be familiar with the regulations since they establish a minimum standard for claims handling in the state of California. Since the California regulations appear to be detailed, draconian, and as or more extensive than similar regulations in other states and in the model set of regulations produced by the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, understanding and working under the California regulations should suffice in every state. The insurer's lawyer will need to know and establish that the insurer fulfilled the requirements of the regulations, since it will show to a trier of fact that the insurer fulfilled the claims minimum standards required and required its claims personnel to comply with the regulations. A knowledge of the regulations can also assist the lawyer in evaluating the exposure faced by an insurer and help the lawyer present an effective defense to an insurer sued for breach of the covenant of good faith and fair dealing. Similarly, the lawyer representing a policyholder client needs complete knowledge of the regulations to use them to prove that the insurer failed to fulfill the minimum standards set by the regulations. Although not evidence of bad faith, failure to fulfill the requirements of the regulation can go a long way to convince a trier of fact, a judge or a jury, that the insurer did not act fairly and in good faith. Compliance with the regulations is important to the evaluation of a claim for breach of the covenant of good faith and fair dealing, and evaluation of a claim of damages resulting from the tort of bad faith. Knowledge of the requirements of the regulations is important to everyone involved in the business of insurance, whether as an insurance adjuster, insurance claims management, public insurance adjuster, policyholder, defense lawyer, insurance coverage lawyer, and policyholder's lawyer. The book California Fair Claims Settlement Practices Regulations 2020 and its appendices should be used by insurers, their insurance claims personnel, and their trainers, educators, or lawyers to effect compliance with the regulation by 1, providing training annually for all claims personnel, or 2, assisting the claims personnel in their obligation to read and understand the regulations. The appendices include an outline for use by an insurance claims personnel in presenting a training seminar to insurance company claims personnel. Reading the book alone should give the reader sufficient information to declare under penalty of perjury that he or she has read and understands the regulations, if a training class is unavailable or inconvenient. In addition, the insurer who presents the training materials should be able to ascertain that each of the insurer's employees who need to be trained were adequately trained. Insurers must understand that every claims employee must be trained annually in accordance with the requirements of the regulations, no later than September 1 of each calendar year, and insurers must be ready to prove to the CDOI compliance with that requirement. Failure to provide evidence of compliance with the regulations can cause the CDOI to assess major fines against the insurer. Those found in violation can be fined up to $55,000 for each violation and may even lose their certificate of authority to do insurance business in California. Consider the potential of an insurer with 100 employees who have not been trained. They could probably, but will not, face a fine of up to $1 million or more. Revisions in the regulations not noted by the insurer may increase the number of technical violations, so it is prudent to check the CDOI website for any changes in the regulations. The regulations state that they set forth minimum standards for the handling of insurance claims. They are not intended to be a text on the handling of insurance claims that must be followed slavishly. They do not even claim to be a complete guide to insurance claims handling. The regulations are rather an outline of basic claims handling techniques. Minimum standards are not maximum standards. The CDOI expects the insurers doing business in the state to treat their insureds with good faith and fair dealing, far in excess of the minimum standards established by the regulations. The regulations were put in place for the sole purpose of allowing the CDOI to enforce Section 790.03H as required by the California Supreme Court, because there was no private right of action available for violation of the Fair Claims Practices Act. Insurers with a professional claims staff will consider the regulations a starting point from which their dedication to serve those they insure will grow. If, as some may desire, the regulations are considered minimum requirements, the insurer will find itself in court fighting a suit claiming breach of the covenant of good faith and fair dealing if the insurer's representatives fail to follow the regulations to the letter. As minimum standards, the regulations should teach insurers that they need to train their claims personnel to treat those they insure better than the regulations require. Although the training required by the regulations is compulsory, the prudent insurer will see the training requirements as a benefit to the insurer. The insurer may use the training required by the regulations as a starting point to develop a more professional claim staff ready to provide every insured who presents a claim with excellence in claims handling. There is no downside to a thoroughly and competently trained claim staff. The competent claim staff that, in addition to knowing the requirements of the regulations, is also able to resolve claims presented to the insurer in a prompt, professional, competent, and fair fashion, will become a marketing point for the insurer and will not only keep the particular insureds whose claims are being handled professionally as a good customer of the insurer, but those insureds will tell their friends, relatives, and neighbors about how well the insurer treated them, which will add to the underwritten risks taken by the insurer and to the profits made by the insurer. So before one can even begin to comply with the task of fulfilling the requirements of the regulations, the claims person needs a basic understanding of claims handling, which is provided in the California Fair Claims Settlement Practices Regulations 2020 book, upon which this video was adapted, and which is available as both a Kindle book and as a paperback from Amazon.com. If you found this video to be useful or interesting to your colleagues, please pass it on. It's free. And please also subscribe to my YouTube channel, my Rumble channel, my blog, and my Substack publications so that you could learn of future blog postings and future videos. Also, if you watch this video on Rumble or YouTube, please click the like button or the Rumble button to allow the publishers to understand how important these videos are. Thank you for your attention.